Mark's hands trembled as he placed the photo of his daughter back on his desk, the weight of his decision crushing him from within. He'd crossed a line he swore he never would, and now everything, his job, his reputation, his ability to provide for his little girl, hung in the balance. But when Sophia looked at him with those eyes that seemed to see right through his carefully constructed walls, he couldn't remember why he'd been fighting this for so long. If you're enjoying this story of forbidden workplace romance and the struggles of a single father, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more emotional stories that explore the complicated reality of modern relationships. Mark Jenkins never planned on being a single father at 34. He certainly never planned on falling for his boss. But life had a way of laughing at his plans. 3 years ago, he'd been happily married with a 1-year-old daughter when his wife announced she couldn't handle motherhood and walked out. The divorce left him emotionally shattered but determined to give his daughter Emma the best life possible. He'd taken the accounting position at Reynolds Architecture because it offered flexible hours and good benefits, perfect for a single dad juggling daycare pickups and pediatrician appointments. Sophia Reynolds had inherited the firm from her father 2 years ago. At 38, she was brilliant, driven, and intimidating. The first time Mark presented quarterly projections to her, he'd been so nervous he spilled coffee on his tie. She'd simply handed him her handkerchief without breaking stride in the meeting. That small kindness had stuck with him. Over the months, their professional relationship had evolved. Sophia often requested Mark specifically for projects, and they frequently worked late together. She never complained when he had to leave suddenly for Emma-related emergencies. In fact, she seemed genuinely interested when he shared stories about his daughter's latest adventures. "She sounds remarkable," Sophia had said one evening as they reviewed client contracts. "You're doing an amazing job with her." The compliment had caught Mark off guard. "Some days I feel like I'm failing her completely," he admitted, surprising himself with his honesty. Sophia's expression had softened. "That's how you know you're a good parent. The bad ones never worry if they're doing enough." Something shifted between them that night. Their conversations began extending beyond work. Mark learned that Sophia had sacrificed having a family to build her career. She'd been engaged once, years ago, but her fiancé had ultimately wanted a wife who would prioritize home over work. She didn't regret her choices, but sometimes wondered about the road not taken. The attraction built slowly, almost imperceptibly. A lingering glance here. A brush of hands there. Mark tried to ignore it. Office romances were complicated enough, but when one person was the other's direct superior, it was professional suicide. Besides, Emma had to be his priority. He couldn't risk their stability for a relationship that might implode. Everything changed the night of the company holiday party. Mark had struggled to find a sitter and was about to call in his regrets when Sophia offered a solution. "Bring Emma," she said simply. "I'll have the caterers prepare some kid-friendly options, and my assistant's daughter is about her age. They can hang out in my office, I've got a TV in there they can watch movies on." Mark had been touched by her thoughtfulness. "You don't have to do that." "I want to," she'd replied, her eyes conveying something more. The party had been a success. Emma had indeed hit it off with the assistant's daughter, and Mark had relaxed enough to enjoy himself. He'd even danced a few times, including one slow dance with Sophia that had left him acutely aware of her perfume and the warmth of her hand against his. When it was time to leave, Sophia had insisted on walking them to their car. Emma, exhausted from the excitement, had fallen asleep in Mark's arms. "She's beautiful," Sophia whispered, gently brushing a strand of hair from Emma's face. "Just like her father." The moment hung between them, charged with possibility. Mark felt his resolve weakening. "Sophia, he began. "I know what you're going to say," she interrupted. "That I'm your boss. That it's complicated. That there are 1,000 reasons why this is a bad idea." "All true," he said quietly. "But what if there's one reason why it's not?" She stepped closer. What if we're missing something extraordinary because we're too afraid to take a chance? Mark looked down at his sleeping daughter, then back at Sophia. It's not just about us. Emma's been through enough upheaval. I understand that, Sophia said. And I would never want to do anything that might hurt her. Or you. She took a step back. The ball's in your court, Mark. No pressure, no expectations. Whatever you decide won't affect your position at the company. He'd nodded, grateful for her understanding, and driven home with his thoughts in turmoil. For weeks afterward, they'd maintained a strictly professional relationship, though the tension between them was palpable. Mark found himself inventing reasons to avoid one-on-one meetings, delegating tasks that would have normally brought them together. Then came the day Emma got sick at school. Mark had been in the middle of a crucial client meeting when he got the call. Without hesitation, he'd excused himself and rushed to pick her up, taking her straight to the pediatrician. It was just a nasty flu, but she was miserable with fever and needed to be home. He'd sent Sophia an apologetic email explaining his sudden departure and requesting to work remotely for the rest of the week. Within minutes, his phone rang. Is she okay? Sophia asked, concern evident in her voice. She will be. Just needs rest and fluids, Mark replied, touched by her worry. What about you? Do you have everything you need? Groceries? Medicine? We'll manage, he assured her. Mark, she said firmly, let me help. Not as your boss. As someone who cares. That evening, she'd appeared at his door with bags of groceries, children's Tylenol, Pedialyte, and a stack of Disney movies. She'd stayed just long enough to help put everything away, careful to maintain a respectful distance. As she was leaving, Emma had called weakly from the couch, "Thank you for the movies, Miss Sophia." Sophia's smile had been radiant. "You're very welcome, sweetheart. Feel better soon." The gesture had cracked something open in Mark's heart. Over the following days, as Emma recovered, he found himself texting Sophia updates. She always responded promptly, her genuine concern for his daughter evident. When Emma was fully recovered and back at school, Mark requested a private meeting with Sophia. He'd made his decision. In her office, with the door closed, he'd struggled to find the right words. "I've been thinking about what you said at the holiday party," he finally began. "And?" Her expression gave nothing away. "And I'm terrified," he admitted. "You're my boss. We shouldn't do this. There are a million ways it could go wrong." "I understand," she said, her disappointment visible despite her attempt to hide it. "But," he continued, "I can't stop thinking about you. About us. About what might be possible." Hope flickered in her eyes. "What are you saying, Mark?" "I'm saying I want to try. But we need to be careful. For Emma's sake. For both our sakes." Sophia had risen from her desk and moved toward him. "I've never wanted anything more," she said softly. "But I need you to be sure." "I'm not sure of anything except how I feel when I'm with you," he confessed. "You're my boss. We shouldn't do this." She'd stepped closer, her gaze unwavering. "You're so damn hot when you're being noble," she'd whispered, a smile playing at her lips. Their first kiss had been tentative, questioning. The second had answered with certainty. They agreed to move slowly, to keep their relationship private until they were sure it had staying power. Sophia suggested consulting HR about the company's policies regarding workplace relationships, to ensure they were handling things ethically. The first few months were a delicate balance. At work, they maintained professional boundaries, though sometimes Mark caught Sophia watching him with a softness that made his heart race. Outside the office, they carefully integrated their lives, with Sophia gradually spending more time with Mark and Emma. To Mark's relief and joy, Emma adored Sophia. The feeling was clearly mutual. Sophia never tried to replace Emma's mother, but she brought a nurturing feminine presence that had been missing from the little girl's life. Their first major challenge came when rumors began circulating at the office. Mark overheard whispers about favoritism and questioned promotions. Though he knew his work stood on its own merit, the speculation stung. When he brought his concerns to Sophia, she'd been characteristically direct. "We have two choices," she said. "We can continue hiding and let the rumors fester, or we can be transparent and deal with whatever comes." They chose transparency, meeting with HR to disclose their relationship and establish appropriate professional boundaries. Sophia recused herself from decisions directly affecting Mark's position and compensation, delegating those responsibilities to another executive. Not everyone was supportive. Some colleagues were openly skeptical, and one client even made a snide comment about Mark sleeping his way to the top. The remark had nearly driven him to end the relationship, his pride wounded and his fears for Emma's stability resurfacing. "Is this worth it?" he'd asked Sophia during a painful late-night conversation. "All this complication, the gossip, the judgment?" "That's not for me to answer," she'd replied. "Only you know what you can handle." "But Mark, if you're asking if you're worth it to me?" "The answer is unequivocally yes." Her certainty had steadied him. Together, they weathered the storm of office politics, emerging stronger for having faced it head-on. The greater challenge came 6 months into their relationship, when Emma's mother suddenly reappeared, expressing a desire to reconnect with her daughter. Mark had been thrown into emotional turmoil, torn between protecting Emma from potential abandonment and acknowledging her right to know her mother. Sophia had been his rock during this crisis, never overstepping but offering unwavering support. She'd helped him find a family therapist who specialized in reunification cases and had stood back to give him and Emma space when needed. When the day came for Emma's first supervised visit with her mother, Mark had been a nervous wreck. Sophia had simply squeezed his hand and said, "Whatever happens, you've got this. And I've got you." The reunion had been awkward but not disastrous. Emma's mother was making a genuine effort, though Mark remained cautiously protective. Over time, they established a tentative co-parenting relationship that prioritized Emma's well-being. Through it all, Mark's relationship with Sophia deepened. They learned each other's rhythms, strengths, and vulnerabilities. Mark discovered that beneath Sophia's confident exterior lay insecurities about her ability to balance career and personal life. Sophia came to understand the depth of Mark's devotion to Emma and his lingering fears of inadequacy as a single parent. On their 1-year anniversary, Sophia invited Mark and Emma to dinner at her home. She'd decorated the dining room with fairy lights and prepared Emma's favorite spaghetti and meatballs. After dinner, she presented Emma with a small gift box. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with 3 interlocking circles. "One for each of us," Sophia explained. "Because no matter what happens, we're connected now." Emma had thrown her arms around Sophia's neck. "Does this mean you're going to be my stepmom?" she asked with a child's directness. Mark had frozen, but Sophia handled the question with grace. "That's something your dad and I would need to talk about very carefully," she said. "But what I can tell you for sure is that I love you and your dad very much." Later that night, after Emma was asleep in the guest room, Mark and Sophia sat on her balcony, looking at the stars. "I never thought I'd find this," Mark admitted. "After the divorce, I was convinced I'd spend the rest of my life focused solely on Emma. And I never thought I'd find someone who understood my commitment to my work wasn't a rejection of family," Sophia replied. "You've never asked me to be less ambitious. Why would I? Your drive is part of who you are. Part of what I love about you." She'd taken his hand then, her expression serious. "About what Emma said earlier. I want you to know I'm not pushing for anything. We can stay exactly as we are for as long as you need." Mark had considered her words carefully. "A year ago, I told you we shouldn't do this because you were my boss. I was terrified of risking Emma's stability, my job, everything I'd worked so hard to rebuild. And now?" she asked softly. "Now I know some risks are worth taking." He squeezed her hand. I'm not ready for marriage yet, and I think Emma needs more time to adjust to all the changes in her life. But I am ready to tell you that I see a future with you. A real, permanent future." The joy in Sophia's eyes had been answer enough. 2 years later, Mark stood in his office, looking at the photo of Emma on his desk. She was 8 now, with her mother regularly involved in her life and Sophia a constant, loving presence. The company had grown, with Mark now heading the finance department, a promotion earned through hard work and proven results, as even his initial skeptics had come to acknowledge. Tomorrow, he and Sophia would celebrate their 3rd anniversary. In his pocket was a small velvet box containing a ring. Emma had helped him pick it out, sworn to secrecy about the surprise proposal. His phone buzzed with a text from Sophia, "Meeting running late. Still on for dinner?" Mark smiled as he typed his reply, "Absolutely. Some things are worth waiting for." As he pressed send, he reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The risks, the challenges, the moments of doubt, all had led to a happiness he'd once thought impossible. Sometimes the things we think we shouldn't do turn out to be exactly what we need. The forbidden office romance had blossomed into something profound and lasting, proving that sometimes the heart knows better than all our careful plans and sensible objections. Mark had learned that love doesn't always come at convenient times or in expected packages, but when it's real, it's worth fighting for. And in the end, isn't that what we're all searching for? The courage to reach for happiness even when it seems impossible, and the wisdom to recognize it when it appears in our lives disguised as a complication. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe for more content that explores the messy, beautiful reality of modern relationships. Remember that sometimes the greatest love stories begin with the words, "We shouldn't do this," followed by the courage to do it anyway.